Tommy Guns McMillen is the man of the hour. He might well be the next big UFC superstar. And let me tell you, matchmakers just gave him a golden opportunity to fast track that process. Welcome into the Hawk's Nest. I am your host, The Hawk. If you are here watching right now, I appreciate it. Please stay around, hit that subscribe, hit that like. And before I explain what this channel is, the first thing I want you to do is drop in the comment section your hottest, most pressing MMA question that you need answered. And next video, I will make sure to answer every single one that is in the comment section. So, as simple as it can be UFC, it can be PFL, it can be an other organization, it could be a rising prospect that's not in the big leagues yet, it could be an amateur. Ask me anything and I will answer your question down below. With that said, this is a brand new YouTube channel I am bringing you guys, and I could not be more excited. MMA is my passion. I've been watching the sport for 15 plus years. I absolutely love it, and I'm excited to share that passion with others. The goal of this channel is to create a community. I want to create a community of fans, fight fans, where we can interact, talk betting, talk predictions, talk future matchups. A healthy community where we can interact together, and I'm potentially looking into the future here if we can build this community up. I would like to have a episode, installment, a series that's really a fan-driven show. So it'd be all fan submissions, and then me and a co-host, or me by myself just responding to those submissions and kind of interacting with the fans that way. I think that'd be very cool. So my goal is to create that community. I hope if you're watching this, you stick around and give me a chance, because this is something I'm passionate about. You know, and at the end of the day, if this never takes off, there is never a community that's built, and there's no one subscribing, no one's watching, no one's liking, no one's commenting, I'm okay in life, right? I love the sport, and I love talking about the sport. This is something that without the microphone, without the camera, I'm already doing on a daily basis. So I thought might as well, record that, get that jotted down. My friends can watch, other people can watch and become fans. But it's just the passion that I have in life, and I'm already doing it anyways. Might as well record it. And if nobody watches, that's okay, because you're doing it anyways. I think that's it. I think that sums up what this channel is. We will be doing, fight predictions, fight analysis and breakdowns for upcoming cards, and we will be talking a lot of betting. Betting is going to be a lot of content that is covered on this channel, and I bet for fun. I don't, it's not a living, and nowhere do I claim to be an expert in betting. I feel like I'm up this year. In total, I'm up about 6 units, which is nothing crazy, but it's not bad. And if you're up money, if I was down 20 units, I might have to wrap it up. You know what I'm saying? But I like to analyze fights. I like to break it down. I like to dive into stats, matchup styles in matchups, and how I think that'll play out. But at the end of the day, it is a fist fight. And anything can happen. There are so many outside factors that contribute to what goes down in that octagon. And a lot of those are out of your control, right? So if you tail me, which you don't have to tail me, right? You can just listen and see what I pick. If you do tail me, be prepared to win some money some nights and lose some money other nights. It's just the nature of this game. And again, disclaimer, I'm not an expert. I've watched the sport for 15 plus years. I'm deep into the sport. I watch every single card. Over the last year, I think I've missed 2 cards live, and then I went back and watched them. I think I know a thing or two, and I'm a bit knowledgeable on the sport. But again, betting-wise, you never know what's going to happen. So that's what you're going to get on this channel. I will tease one thing that we're going to do that I think makes this channel unique, and I think is something that, maybe I'll have to look it up, but I haven't seen or heard of anyone doing this. It's going to be a series called Fantasy Fight Friday. Okay, every other Friday or every Friday, we are going to have a fantasy matchup that we are going to be analyzing and breaking down. What I mean by that is a matchup that never occurred in the UFC or in pro combat sports because of whatever reason, right? Maybe they were from the same era, but they just never crossed paths. Maybe there's injuries involved, or maybe they're from two completely different time periods, right? So if you're not following along, the first matchup we will be doing is GSP versus Kamaru Usman. What a banger fight that would have been. When we do this, we're going to take into account both of them in their primes, obviously. And the way it plays out, which I think is pretty cool, I have a buddy in AI software development, and in his free time, he messes around with it. He developed a software that is all based on MMA. You put in-depth statistics and ratings for those fighters, and then you put them together for 10 fights. Whoever wins more out of those 10 fights is the winner in our series. It's kind of cool. I have to make the ratings myself, so I got to rate GSP's left hook. What overall is GSP's left hook out of 100? What is overall is his left straight, his left right? It's going to be a lot of work, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And in those videos, we will dive into breaking down why I rated each thing that, and we'll bring up, real-time examples from GSP's fights. So we're going to be putting two people up together that is a matchup everyone has wanted to see but didn't get to, right? Another matchup is going to be Jorge Masvidal versus Conor McGregor, which is something that I always begged and pleaded to see, but we never got. So that's that. Fantasy Fight Friday. I think that's something that's going to be unique to this channel. So, stick around to see that. I think that'll be fun, and you will get to kind of get somewhat of an answer, right? Obviously, it's AI. It's not actually, played out, but it'll be fun to go through the process. But we'll get somewhat of an answer as to how would these fights play out. Okay, so today we're talking about Tommy McMillen. We're talking about Tommy McMillen's matchup, which is bonkers. We're going to talk about what I think his ceiling, what I think his floor is, and we're going to talk about his skill set, his future. So, stay tuned, and here we go. It's a Tommy gun. Does anyone get the reference? Or am I tweaking? Is that... No, that is. It's from The Mask, Jim Carrey, when he's doing the balloon animals, and then he makes it into a Tommy gun, and then it turns into a real Tommy gun. Or is this like a Mandela? No, this definitely happened. But anywho, just made me think of Tommy Guns McMillen. What are my thoughts on Tommy McMillen? The first thing that comes to mind is the word entertaining. Whether you're a fan of Tommy McMillen, whether you hate Tommy McMillen, there is no doubting that he is an entertaining fighter. I think both in the cage with his fight style and on the mic, this kid is destined for success and destined for a huge fan base. I think right now Tommy McMillen is one of the most divisive fighters on the UFC roster. A lot of people love him, but a lot of people still hate him. And when I say still, I say that lightly because, he's only 2 fights into his UFC career. But the hate I see on the internet is vast for Tommy McMillen. And to me, it just does not make sense. Why do they hate this kid? I think part of it is how confident Tommy McMillen is. Because confidence sometimes comes off as arrogance to the casual fan or just the fan of anything. Confidence can come off as arrogance or cockiness, right? But you're a UFC fighter. You get in a cage and fist fight people for a living. You need confidence when you go in there. And so far, Tommy McMillen's confidence has been paying off tenfold, right? Sometimes confidence takes you a little further than if you're timid. And, Tommy McMillen understands the game, understands what he needs to do, and he understands himself mentally, how he needs to prepare for fights and how he needs to be. And that confidence, I think, is just Tommy McMillen down to the core. I think part of the reason he is so confident is he loves fighting. He loves scrapping. You know, in the back of his mind, I don't think, I mean, he won't ever say this, but I don't think losing is that big of a deal to him, you know, losing one fight. I think he wants to get in there and he wants to be entertaining for fans. He wants to put on a show and he wants to fucking scrap. And I think that's just it. Like, he doesn't want to lose. Nobody wants to lose. But I think he is proud if he goes in there, puts on a fight of the night performance. Maybe he loses a split decision or a unanimous decision. And I don't think he's that upset. You know, he gets his 100K bonus for fight of the night, and he entertained fans. He put on a show for fans. Now, a lot of the hate I see for Tommy comes from this place of, oh, he's not going to fare well against the top 15. He's not going to fare well against the top 10. He will never be champion. As soon as he faces somebody good, he's done for. Well, first off, we're about to see him face someone good. So I think he's going to shut up the haters in that way. But all this talk about the top 15 being a champion, he has 2 fights into his UFC career. We should not care what he's going to do against the top 15, top 10, or if he's ever going to be champ. Now, when I say we shouldn't care, what I mean by this is, why can't, without me predicting what he's going to do in the future, because I think Tommy McMillen is going to go very far in this sport, why are we going to hate on someone just because they're not top 15 or top 10 or champion? Not everybody has to be that once-in-a-generation fighter that is undefeated, runs through the division and wins the championship, and then goes up and gets another belt. And I think that's the problem with MMA fans. We expect perfection out of every single fighter, whereas in football or basketball, you have role players. You have players that do their role to a T, and they are celebrated. And I'm not going to say what Tommy McMillen's role is, what his ceiling is yet. I'll reveal what I think it is later in the video. But what if Tommy McMillen's role is to get in there, punch people in the face, get hit in the face, make it bloody, make it entertaining, win some fights, lose some fights, and just brawl? What if that's his role? Is it so bad that Tommy McMillen wants to put on entertaining fights? Is it so bad that he, even though despite being a 2-time Montana State champion in wrestling and having a good wrestling background, is it so bad that he doesn't use that, gets in there and scraps with people? Is that awful? Is that something to hate on him for? I personally don't think so, and it just doesn't make sense to me. I'll say it again. I already said it. Not everybody has to be champ. Not everybody has to be a top 15, top 10 fighter. Let's enjoy these entertaining fighters. Let's enjoy these guys that want to punch, want to kick, want to go in there and drown people with pace and try and hurt them so bad that they cannot finish the fight. I mean, I see it all the time, people complaining about, you know, if somebody's too wrestling heavy or if they don't do enough damage in grappling. Or just stand and bang, which I'm guilty of saying sometimes when it gets to a point, right? But we complain about that, and then we get a fighter like Tommy McMillen who is all gas, no brakes, foot on the pedal, throwing punches and bunches and drowning people, and he still gets hate. I don't get it. I do not get that. I'm going to take a sip here of my coffee. I don't know if I'm a little too teed up, but had a great night last night. Put $100 on the Green Bay Packers, my Green Bay Packers, to win a preseason game. I know, it's degenerate, it's ill-advised, but they got the job done. They got the job done easily. And so I'm a little hyped up on that. And, you know, I'm on my second mushroom coffee of the morning. We got PFL Tampa tonight. We got Rodriguez, Hernandez, Fluffy RoboCop tonight. I'm hyped up. I'm ready to go. This is a good Saturday morning. So if I'm a little teed up, that's why. But Tommy McMillen, you know, a lot of people also, the other avenue of hate I see for him is the whole gangster gimmick, the whole gangster thing. People are like, this guy's from Great Falls, Montana. He's not a gangster. He calls himself a gangster. That's stupid. Dude, couple things. What is the definition of a gangster? Right? Like, who decides what a definition of a gangster is? I mean, is a gangster Tommy McMillen really has to be in a gang, really has to, tote guns and kill people and rob and steal? Is that what a gangster is? Because then, no, I don't think Tommy McMillen's a gangster. But when Tommy McMillen says he is a gangster, I believe that's a mentality. That's a style. That's a way he carries himself. I think, personally, anyone who gets in a cage and fights other grown men for a living is a gangster. And that's just my thoughts. Tommy McMillen is a gangster. When you see the way Tommy talks, the way he carries himself, and then he backs it up in the octagon, Tommy McMillen is absolutely a gangster. So I just, people get hung up on that too, that he calls himself a gangster and he's from Montana. I do have an uncle out in Montana, and I will say, I don't think there's many legitimate gangsters out there. But again, it stands for something that doesn't have to be actually killing people, robbing people, stealing, being in a gang. It's just like when people say, I'm a killer. I'm a killer when I get in the ring. I kill people. Right? They don't actually kill people. So should I go on Twitter and be like, he doesn't actually kill people, though. Why is he calling himself a killer? It's the same concept. Tommy McMillen says he's a gangster. Are you gonna go up to his face and tell him he's not a gangster? I sure won't. But that's just one thing I wanted to cover as well. Tommy also trains with Sugar Sean and Tim Welch at the Red Hawk Academy in Arizona. I'm going to do a whole separate video on Red Hawk. I think that is one of the best gyms in the country currently. And I think Tim Welch is one of the best head MMA coaches in all of MMA, really. I was going to say the UFC, but all of MMA. I mean, I think he is an intelligent coach, and he really understands fighter to fighter. Everyone needs something a little bit different, but along the same lines. They have that blueprint set out for mentality, breath work, how to live life, how to enjoy life, but also the sacrifices you need to make, the stoicism, all of this. And I know I'm going on and I'm glazing the hell out of them, but they have a blueprint at Red Hawk. Sugar Sean won the championship. He defended the title. They know what it takes to get there. And I think that experience trickles down to people like Ezra Elliott, Tommy McMillen, JoJo Griffin. I am balls deep into Red Hawk Academy. And for years I watched Sean and Tim's come up through their podcast, through their behind-the-scenes footage. This was way before they were champ. And I was a fan of Sugar Sean during, his pro days before he was in the UFC. I found out who this kid was. Saw his spinning back heel KO of David Nuzzo at LFA before he got on Contender Series. Saw his Contender Series fight. I had been a huge fan, and I always said he was going to be champion because I saw the podcasts where Tim and Sugar would talk, and they talk about their daily life and their training and what they're doing outside of training that's going to help them for fighting. And so I just saw a determined, motivated, and smart, duo. And, lo and behold, it paid off. They did win. They did get a bantamweight championship and a title defense. But Tommy McMillen is coming from that school. So he's got that veteran leadership from Tim, from Sugar, who are usually in his corner. They weren't last fight because of outside reasons, but I'm sure they will be in his corner September 12th. Having those two in your corner and then also just being who Tommy McMillen is, I think is going to lead to success in the UFC. I mean, when it comes to his ceiling, when it comes to his floor, I could see Tommy McMillen being a champion one day. I could see it. I could see Tommy McMillen being a champion one day, almost like a Max Holloway-esque run, right? In a Max Holloway-esque style. The volume that Tommy McMillen throws, the pace, the cardio, the chin. Now, Tommy McMillen did get, I don't know if they were official knockdowns or, but he got dropped a couple times, but I think it was more so due to a slip and being off balance than it was necessarily to him getting hurt, because he popped right back up and he was in his opponent's face. But that cardio, that pace, and that ability to take punches and just keep throwing is insane. And when we dive into the stats in a little bit here in this video, we'll highlight that. But I think that gives anybody a problem in the UFC. Anybody, top 15, top 5, top 10. Not saying he's going to win every single matchup, but I think that gives them real issues. That is hard to deal with. You throw 3 punches, Tommy McMillen has already thrown 13. Right? You crack him, he's right back in your face, just pounding you with punches, elbows. He's even got that Sugar Sean, spinning heel kick to the body. Sure, he can do it to the head as well. I love Tommy's style. I think he's so entertaining. I think he is a great fighter, and I think he's destined for big things in this sport. Now, call me crazy here. When Yair dropped out against Gene Silva, I was like, move Tommy McMillen up to the main event against Gene Silva. I don't care how fast it is. I think he gives Gene Silva some issues. Now, I think at this point in their careers, does Tommy McMillen win that fight? I don't know. I'd love to see it play out. I would love to see it play out. I would love to see him, even if he loses, just get in there, be a freaking badass, be a gangster, step into that main event, fight Gene Silva. I think he'd put up a fight. I think he would put up a fight, win or lose. And then Jose Delgado could have fought Rahiki. But, I'm not complaining. The matchup that they gave Tommy McMillen was out of left field. It is a little bit unexpected, and it's beautiful. It really is. Tommy McMillen's floor, before we move on in the video, I think Tommy McMillen's floor is kind of that top 15, just outside of the top 15 gatekeeper. But, okay, when I say floor, I do not see this happening. I really do not see this happening. But if everything goes wrong, I think he is kind of that 15, 14, 13, just outside of the top 15 gatekeeper. He's always going to be a tough fight for those rising prospects once he gets a little bit older. He's going to beat a few rising prospects, stop a few hype trains, and then he's going to kind of hang out, and he might go on one run where he gets in that top 10. He's one fight away from the title. I think that's his floor. And again, when I say floor, I'm saying this is the absolute worst version of Tommy McMillen. You watch him, he is so poised, so skilled, and crazy. You got to be a little crazy to be a cage fighter, and he's got a lot of crazy. So, Tommy McMillen is fighting Marwan Rahiki, Freaky Rahiki, September 12th, Glendale, Arizona, right in Tommy McMillen's backyard for UFC Noche. Let's get into the matchup. So, the UFC gives Tommy McMillen Freaky Rahiki. This is out of left field, to be quite honest. I called on Twitter, and again, I'm not an expert, and I didn't claim that I had insider information. It was just my prediction. I called it Jimenez as the matchup for Tommy McMillen based off of him wanting a Mexican, him calling out a Mexican after his last fight. And then, so that's, he was a freshly signed UFC fighter with no bout in order. So, I thought, okay, he's a Mexican bantamweight. He hasn't fought in the UFC before. This could be who they give Tommy on UFC Noche. Well, then it heated up a little bit. Jimenez or someone in his camp posted that he had just signed a fight right after Tommy McMillen said that he signed a fight. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to look like a genius here. And I posted that on Twitter. I'll put the screenshot into this video. Turns out it wasn't. Turns out it was Freaky Rahiki, and I mean, what a matchup. Two hot MMA prospects going at it early in their career. I personally love this. I saw a lot of people, I mean, everyone loved it. Everyone loves the matchup here. It's pretty tantalizing. It's destined for entertainment. But a lot of people question, is this too early? I don't think so. I don't want this to be the case where something happens along the way where we never get this matchup. You know, because they're both early in their career. They're both 2-0 in the UFC with 2 finishes. I don't want this to be a case where we're like, okay, we'll shelf this until they're both top 15 or top 10. Okay, what if McMillen gets hurt? What if Rahiki gets hurt? What if Rahiki goes up a division, McMillen goes up you know what I mean? What if we never get this fight? Let's make it right now and let's find out who's who. Both of these guys have a lot of hype going into this fight. Let's find out who's who. I think this is beautiful. And, you know, maybe down the line they can fight again when they're in the top 15, top 10 if they both make it that far. You know what I mean? But let's find out now. And I think it's a hugely beneficial matchup to both fighters. I don't think whoever loses, I don't think this affects their ceiling at all in this sport. And whoever wins gets a massive boost on their quest for superstardom. A massive boost. 2 hyped prospects, undefeated, going into the octagon. One loses their 0, one comes out victorious and absorbs the hype from the other guy and elevates their career and boosts it. So I think this is smart by the UFC. And not only that, this matchup is fireworks, you know, fight style wise. It is fireworks. You're going to get a good fight, possibly fight of the night if it doesn't end early. And so you're getting a fight of the night, and you're getting one prospect who just took another prospect 0 and is boosting themselves into superstardom. Now, if Tommy McMillen wins, I mean, Tommy McMillen is already gaining a lot of traction with fans. If Tommy McMillen wins this, what do you give him next? Do you give him? Where do you go from him beating Rahiki? You got to go top 15 at that point? And then the hype is at an all-time high for him? Christ, we'll think about that after the fight. Sorry, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but this matchup is awesome, and I don't think it's too early. I'm going to say it again. I think that it gives whoever wins a huge boost, and whoever loses, you just lost to a great fighter, and it allows for you to get better. Get that loss early in your career, get better. And I don't think it affects the ceiling because it's early. It's an early fight. They're both early into their UFC careers where they have time to get better. So I love it personally. McMillen, well, both of them 2-0 in the UFC, both undefeated, and finished their opponents. McMillen's 28 years old, 6 feet tall with a 74-inch reach. He's 11-0 overall, 2-0 in the UFC with 2 TKOs. 9 out of his 11 wins are first-round finishes. And he's well-rounded. This is something that we haven't seen in the UFC yet, but he is really a well-rounded fighter. He's got 5 KOs, 5 submissions, 1 decision. And let's just take a second to talk about that decision. That was on the Contender Series. What a fight that was against David Magoyan. Now, Magoyan is a disciple of Arman. Or he might not be a disciple. He might just be a friend, but Arman Sarukian. And David Magoyan is a legit fighter. If it was not for Tommy McMillen that night, David Magoyan would be in the UFC. And I think he will make his way into the UFC. We saw him on the MVP card get a W. Tommy McMillen was a underdog in that fight. And just looking back, what a insane matchup to give Tommy McMillen on the Contender Series. Now, of course, Tommy McMillen is well-rounded and he's got good wrestling. You saw that in that fight. Granted, Magoyan was hurt, but he was shooting and Tommy McMillen was defending. And this was after he was already on the ground. So Tommy McMillen gets caught off guard with that spinning elbow, drops him, and then has the tightest guillotine, and Tommy McMillen pulls the old owl method, bends his neck 360 to get out. He was almost finished twice in that fight. Comes back, wins the next 2 rounds with volume, pressure. Gosh, that was an awesome fight. And at the time, it's easy to kind of overlook and be like, oh my God, he barely won his Contender Series fight. But Tommy McMillen fought a good fighter that he was an underdog against. And he whooped him up in those last 2 rounds and won the fight in entertaining fashion and got his UFC contract. Right? So it goes to show how fragile this sport is. Tommy McMillen, if he loses that fight, he's not in the UFC, and we don't know whether. And by the way, I'm surprised that Magoyan did not get a contract after that. But he's not in the UFC, but he does. He survives that fight. He digs deep. He finds a way to win that fight. Gets into the UFC. He hasn't had. I mean, they've been dog fights, but not like that fight. 2 KOs. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. But the point being, that is the only decision on his record, and that was a heck of a fight. One of my favorite Contender Series fights of all time. So, jumping into the stats a little bit, Tommy McMillen, and again, this is UFC stats that I'm about to read off. He only has 2 fights, so it's a small sample size, but we still got to look into the numbers a little bit. And, I'm sure these numbers change for both guys stepping up into competition against each other. 13.54 significant strikes landed per minute. What a blistering pace Tommy McMillen has showed thus far in the UFC. 13.54 landed per minute. Now he only absorbs about 4.96 significant strikes per minute. So again, he's just out-voluming people right now. The pressure that he is putting on is crazy. He has a 50% strike accuracy when it comes to significant strikes and a 60% defense. 1.3 knockdowns per 15 minutes. A lot of people, are doubting Tommy's power, and I don't want to doubt his power yet, and even if he's not that powerful, that's okay because his pressure, chin, volume, cardio is going to make up for that. Doesn't matter. He can do the Nate Diaz punches and bunches technique, right? Not everyone has to have the power, although that could get him into some trouble, especially in this fight, potentially, if he can't put away Rahiki, and Rahiki's still throwing bombs and catches him. But nonetheless, 1.3 knockdowns per 15 minutes. 90% of the significant strikes he's thrown so far have come from the standing position. So he's not going in there looking to grapple, although I think that is a hidden talent that we will find out once he steps up even more in competition. We might even see it in this fight. And I think him and Tim, if you look on social media, are playing a little bit of mind games or a little reverse mind games. Who knows? They posted a lot of footage of him hitting mitts, but he's doing 1-2s and shooting into takedowns. So maybe the hope that Rahiki sees that and carves a little bit more time away to practice his grappling, his takedown defense, and then they just come in and, go balls to the walls like Tommy McMillen has been fighting. Or maybe they're, legitimately drilling that. Maybe they even want Rahiki to see that and think, oh, that's smoke and mirrors, right? And then he does come in there and wrestle him. Who knows? So versus Montez, let's talk about, again, I've made a big point about cardio for Tommy McMillen. Round 1 against Montez, he threw 74 significant strikes. Round 2, he comes back and throws 97 significant strikes. He gets stronger as the fight goes. And you saw that in the Magoyan fight. Round 3, when he eventually finishes him, he threw 81 significant strikes, and then I think he had 2 official knockdowns recorded during that round. That could be a mistake, but I believe that is the case. So 74, which is a great pace, and then he comes out with 97 and 81. In the 81, he finished him, so obviously he could have thrown more, and I don't think he was done yet. He gets stronger as the fight goes on, which I think is going to benefit him again in this fight with Rahiki. Round 3 was his most accurate round in that fight. I mean, that's insane. With that amount of pace, pressure. Now, granted, Montez was hurt. He wasn't moving as well. He wasn't, slipping punches. He wasn't, being as effective as he probably could have been in his defense. But you're throwing pace that's increasing with rounds, and your accuracy is increasing with rounds. It's awesome. So, I've said it a bunch of times, but we'll talk about McMillen's keys to this fight. Volume and pace has got to be there, right? That's his style of fighting, and that can drown anyone. And then, his size. I think he's getting better at using his size. I think we'll see that in this fight. He is 6 foot with a 74-inch reach, whereas Rahiki is 5'8" with a 72-inch reach. So only a 2-inch reach disadvantage for Rahiki, but 5'8" versus 6 foot. And longer legs for McMillen will allow him to use his footwork to kind of stay at a distance a little bit more. I'm saying all this, and Tommy McMillen could decide to just go in there and just get as close as possible and dirty box Rahiki. You never know. McMillen loves to fight, so durability is going to be huge. Rahiki throws with power. Is Tommy McMillen going to be able to withstand that storm as he's coming forward and putting the pace on him? We'll see. Tommy McMillen has that wrestling safety net that I was just talking about. He is a 2-time state champion in the state of Montana, and he... if you listen to anyone talk about Tommy McMillen's wrestling, he is hard to take down. He's slippery. He's good with his footwork. He's good with his takedown defense. He has that wrestling safety net. If you get cracked, Tommy, don't be afraid to take down Rahiki. Get your bearings back together. Throw some huge ground and pound, and then stand up if you want. You know what I mean? He's got that wrestling safety net, and I think that could... Maybe we won't see it in this fight, but I think that comes into play later in his career for sure, once he gets into those top matchups. And that's another thing. I don't think people understand that Tommy has that good grappling, wrestling background. I don't think they understand that. So they kind of just see him as a brawler, which is, I don't blame him. That's how he's been fighting. But as someone who's been following Tommy McMillen since his days of Montana Pro League fighting, he can wrestle and he has good grappling. And that's just that. Rahiki, Freaky Rahiki, as he would call himself. 24 years old, 5'8", 72-inch reach, 9-0 overall, 2-0 in the UFC. 8 of his 9 wins are KO or TKO, and then he has 1 sub. He has not had a fight go to decision yet. He has 7.75 significant strikes landed per minute and 5.9 absorbed per minute. So he absorbs a little bit more than Tommy McMillen and lands a little bit less. But Rahiki has the power. Rahiki has 52% strike accuracy and 58% defense. He has landed 155 out of 295 total significant strikes in his UFC fights so far. He has a plus 1.85 strike differential. That compared to Tommy McMillen's strike differential, Tommy McMillen is rocking in plus 8.58. That is a huge, huge difference while they're fighting similar competition. But again, Rahiki's got the power. Tommy's got the pace. This is going to be pace versus power, right? And then durability for both of them. That's what's this fight is going to come down to. Rahiki, when he fought Harry Hardwick, he landed 90 out of 164. He got the round 2 finish. Okay, but Hardwick landed 65 out of 149. So Rahiki is able to be hit. He is able to be hit. He's not, at least in that fight, he was not some crazy boxing wizard where he's slipping punches, using distance very well, parrying. He wasn't doing these things. He was getting hit. It was kind of a dogfight. It was a back and forth fight where Rahiki got hurt in this fight. A couple things go differently. He gets finished, but obviously we don't talk about what ifs. We do talk about what ifs, but he won the fight anyways. But he was able to be hurt, which gives me some confidence for McMillen to do the same, especially with the volume. Now, Rahiki is going to have to earn respect early, but I don't think respect goes a long way with Tommy McMillen. Tommy gets cracked, I think, which, by the way, could play out to be a good thing for Rahiki, but if Tommy gets cracked, I don't think he's going to just stop coming forward and play it safe. He's going to bite down on his mouthpiece and throw bombs. Is that a good thing for McMillen? I don't know. I don't know if it'll be a good thing. For Rahiki, if you crack someone and they keep coming forward, shoot. You'll take that all day. Because you know you can land another one and put them away. But he's willing to get into a firefight, Rahiki. So I think this fight is going to be so good. Dude, I cannot wait. I mean, this is going to be a legitimate dogfight, I think. Unless it ends very early. I don't see it ending that early, though, to be quite honest. But, we'll just have to see there. So, let's kind of wrap this up. What does McMillen want in this fight? And then I'll get into my prediction. McMillen wants long range, volume, pressure, overwhelm. That's what he wants. Use that size that you have at featherweight to pick apart Rahiki. Now, you don't have to fight like a Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong type fight if you don't want to. But use your range, right? Don't get in too close. Punch at the end of your punches. And I know Tim talks about that a lot with Tommy, and he says that Tommy's improving a lot at punching with the end of his punches. But he's gotta stay long. He's gotta pop the jab. He's gotta pop the jab, find a home for that, and then, volume, pressure, overwhelm Rahiki. I think Rahiki's there to be hurt. So is Tommy, though. That's what makes this fight so fun. Rahiki wants to close distance. He doesn't want to stay at range with McMillen. Make McMillen uncomfortable and land those big shots. He's looking to land those big shots. Tommy McMillen is going to throw more punches than Rahiki in this fight. Tommy McMillen is probably going to land more punches depending on how long the fight goes. But the sneaky aspect is Rahiki's power. He's got freaky power in those hands, right? So Rahiki is going to have to land big, right, to slow McMillen down, make him uncomfortable. McMillen might already have 30 strikes landed, and Rahiki's only got 10, but he's cracked him twice already and dropped him. That could be how this fight plays out. So making him uncomfortable and closing distance, getting to a spot where he can hurt Tommy, you got to weather those punches. Tommy's going to throw a bunch. Just kind of find a way to, roll with the punches, slip a little bit, get in close, and hurt Tommy McMillen. So a big question I have is, can Rahiki deal with this volume that's about to come at him? That's a huge question that's going to get answered in this fight. How I see the fight playing out, round one, Rahiki kind of weathers the storm. Tommy McMillen wins this round. Tommy McMillen starts fast and kind of reckless. And Rahiki just he's not going to, again, it's going to be like 40 punches to 20, 40 to 30 even, 40 to 27. I'm just making up numbers, but Tommy McMillen is going to outland Rahiki in the first round, but Rahiki is going to weather the storm and look to bounce back in round two. Round two, more volume, but does Rahiki find that big shot to earn Tommy's respect? Does he find that big shot to maybe set Tommy down? Can he handle the volume over 3 rounds? Like we already, I went over the number against Alberto Montes. He got stronger as the fight went. Tommy McMillen gets stronger. He threw more as the fight went. And I think he feels that pressure and feels like the presence of a crowd and feeds off that energy. Round 3, again, this favors Tommy at this point in the fight. If we get to a round 3, this could be the point where Rahiki gets drowned. He finally gets broken. But we got to see up until this point, how many big shots has Rahiki landed? How much does Tommy have left in the tank? But I think if it gets to a round 3, I think Tommy McMillen drowns Rahiki. Whether that's a finish, whether that's a decision, but he's just drowning him. And I think that's how the fight plays out if we get to that third round. If Rahiki wins, it's got to be by knockout, I think. Just because of McMillen's volume, it's going to be hard to win a decision. Now, maybe McMillen outlands him a ton, but he gets dropped every single round. And that could be a way that Rahiki wins. But in that second and third round, after the pace at which they are fighting, which I think is going to be high, does Rahiki still have that same power? Maybe Tommy takes him down in the first round, makes him grapple a lot, kind of drains some of that energy and power, and then just drowns him. I keep saying drown, but that is just the way Tommy McMillen fights. Suffocates him, drowns him in the second and third round after taking him down and making him grapple in the first round. I don't think Tommy McMillen is necessarily going to come out and shoot, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But I don't think that's the way. He knows the hype behind this fight. He wants to put on a show. I think McMillen has more ways to win. I think McMillen can win by decision. I think McMillen can finish Rahiki. Rahiki has the dangerous power, and he has the chance to end this fight. I think I'm leaning McMillen. It's volume versus violence. That's what this fight is. Pressure versus power, volume versus violence. Somebody loses their 0. Tommy McMillen by stoppage. That is my prediction. I'm going to go round 3 TKO Tommy Guns McMillen. Thank you for tuning into this episode. If you watched this far, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love talking about this stuff. And I'm excited to share my passion with you and keep this YouTube channel going and consistently turn out top quality content. Thank you so much. Be safe. Be good to yourself. See you later.